Okay, so I think we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Destro Dev Show. And today we have Liran with us, and he is working as uh, a director of developer advocacy at Snyk, right? So we all know about Snyk, so that's very good. And we all know also Liran because he also speaks at a lot of conferences or meetups. Also, if you search his name on YouTube, I think you will find at least few few talks, right? So I also check that. I also know you actually for a few years. I mean, I don't know you personally, we never met in person, but just with that online thing, I think yeah, follow you for quite a while. Yeah, cool. And maybe you can introduce yourself a bit better than me. Please go on.
I did a good job. Yeah, so I'm basically a developer advocate at Snyk. Snyk is a company that does open source security tooling. So maybe we'll talk about some of that today. Maybe I'll set up some demos and screen
Yeah.
sharing and show you some of the cool stuff that we do. So we do that. And before joining Snyk, I was pretty much involved a lot in the Node.js community through other kind of initiatives like I like how that my hat is not duplicated. This
Yeah,
amazing, genius job just thinking that.
yeah.
Awesome. Shajada, you are awesome on this.
No, yeah, I just try to be. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. So where was I? So talking about nodes, and like this is the way I started with the community is with Node from 2014. I was actually I wonder if any of viewers or maybe you have remember that we had those days where we had mean.js, mean.js, and mean.io. They were two frameworks. We are not used to this today, but back then in 2014, they were pretty revolutionary, and they were based on the mean acronym. That's Mongo, Express, Angular, and Node, and that is how we shipped apps or build them in for app that's kind of based entirely on the JavaScript stack, so being very full stack. And so this is how I started my Node.js journey. And so moving on with that, I was doing a little bit more security, diving into, well, how do we secure Node.js applications? And that's how I self-learned and with a lot of resources on the internet and what I could find on security. So doing open source, doing Node, then joining the Node Foundations, which is now the OpenJS Foundation, working with the ecosystem security working group. And today, working with developers, like you, like everyone else on this stream and otherwise, just how do we write secure code? How do we build secure applications from any aspects, from our own code, from the use of, proper use of dependencies, from containerizing them properly to orchestrating them in production. So as you can imagine, developers have a lot of responsibilities these days, and security is one of them.
Yeah, cool. I mean, as I also you also told about mean.io and mean.js. I actually worked with that like long ago, and I know,
Really?
I know Leo Kessels is the
Yeah.
founder or the creator of mean.io, right?
Yeah.
I actually know him from that. I think from in 2014 or 15, something like that. I met him online for sure. So that's how I also got introduced to him. So that's a nice, yeah,
That's awesome. That's a nice closure here.
yeah,
Do
yeah.
you know the story about mean.js and mean.io?
I mean, I don't know that details for sure, right? But I at least, knew a little bit because, I just followed what was going on the internet, right? Because I was in Bangladesh in that time, and now I'm in Germany. You probably know that. So I was following what's going on in everywhere from AngularJS point of view or Node.js, or I was also working with .NET for the backend. So in general, like in all of the place. So it's nice to know that you also were engaged in that point. Yeah.
Yes, it's a great story there. It's a great start for the community. I love what those projects ended up creating for me personally, opportunities as well as for the community around them.
True. Our topic is also very unique today because in my channel we never had a talk on security, and we know that security. Yeah, I mean that's true, right? So it is really important thing, but I think most people don't talk a lot about it. So even if we see all the conferences, let's say React, Angular conferences, we probably hardly see security topics, because I
True.
also watch a lot of conferences, or I also go to meetups as you speak, as an audience, but it's really hard that people don't talk about that. Maybe you should. I would love to know like what you think about that before going to the topic. Maybe we should have more and more topics about security on the meetups.
I'm totally right in there with you, Shaja. This is exactly what was, kind of like my mission and my focus, and the last couple of years, definitely like the first year doing DevRel, is how do we get security, like application security, that's much closer to
Yeah,
developers. How do we get that like more in the awareness? How do we get people excited about security, like learning from failures, but also celebrating wins of security? What are best practices that we can do,
yeah,
throughout the ways that we're building applications on the front end, on the back end, containerizing them, the DevOps side of things. I'm right there with you. We need to raise the awareness of how to, to become a secure developer in 2021. You basically, need to, first of all, be committed, or be invested in the fact that application security is an
yeah.
important topic, and it's something you care about a lot.
If we now go to the point to our topic today, so okay, the first thing comes like what is security, right? So why we talk about, like, if we say very specific application security, why should be we should be concerned about that?
Oh wow, why should we?
Yeah, yeah. So that's the point in everywhere, right? So yeah.
It is. Well, I mean, there are different aspects of security as we can, like, rail through them. I would say developers probably care the most about their own code, just because
Yeah,
like they kind of like, they write it, and they probably have, this sense of commitment, responsibility, accountability about their own code. So it would be great like if that code was secure as well.
yeah,
As we go, a little bit more to that, like, why do we care about security? Is because if we, building applications today means using a lot of open source software, and that's basically relying on other people's code and their security expertise, basically to now ship our applications and build whatever functionality we needed based off of that open source code. And that is now under our responsibility, because that open source code snippet is now part of my application. So like, I should care about it, right? If it has a dependency, no one's going to go to that open source maintainer or developer team and tell them, what's going on. They're all going to go to my application, to my app, to figure out like what we can do to improve it, and why do we have security issues. So, open source is all around us. I do not think that open source is going anywhere else.
yeah, yeah.
It's only going to grow, and so are probably vulnerabilities that we are going to find in open source software.
Yeah, yeah, true. So there are a lot of things developers can actually do when we write the code or when we develop the application. So seems like we even don't probably talk a lot in the team. I'm not saying like only in a specific company. We are talking about in general for the whole world. Because I was also working in Bangladesh, because I have seen in my life, in my, let's say, 10 years of experience of software development, that not all the companies actually do that. I'm lucky that in my current company, we we talk a lot, or we try to care a lot, but there are a lot of companies still in the world, actually, they even don't talk even once in a month or even once in a year, for example. So this talk can be actually something for them.
I think you raised a really interesting perspective of open source security, or just like web security and code
Yeah,
security in general. Maybe if you want to look at that in those lens, and that is, I mean, you mentioned that you're in a company, right? That has this culture of caring about security and being committed to it. One of the ways that we find it useful to basically engage with developers is having this role, this title of a security champion. So that's basically someone in a team or a group who cares, who's like, cares a little bit probably more than the rest about security, and they're not specifically the experts on everything security, but they are kind of like committed and passionate about security. So they will be the champion. They will say, hey, let's do this, let's do security code reviews, let's add this kind of like static analysis tool to our pipeline, let's do that, let's work with how do we keep our secrets. They will kind of like try to do all of those things. And those security champions program, where we celebrate security and accept it as part of the overall technical debt, the overall interesting I'd say aspect of security and infrastructure. That is really, I think, what we've seen has been a successful way of engaging and implementing security inside companies. And so as we go from that, maybe to talk about OWASP, probably a good point now is to say, like, what's OWASP? This is people know this by the acronym, but yeah. So OWASP stands for the Open Web Application Security Project. It's a project, created out of people, right? It says people driving this, volunteer groups all over the world. It's been with us for like 2 decades now, since 2001 or so, if I remember correctly. And this web application security project really consists of a lot of things that are super helpful. For example, they have this cheat sheet series, which are best practices on how to do certain things like encoding and serialization, and what is a code injection attack and how to avoid it and how to reproduce it if you want to try something out. So they have a lot of documentation and helpful ways, like a guide. If you want to do security testing, what does it actually mean? What are the requirements that you need to have for a project, for a software project, from the security perspective? Also, what are the proactive controls that you need to set, like sanitization and different kind of things. So there's like a ton of documentation to the point where you could get lost. So it's pretty important to kind of know what you're after, or just browse around if you want to just learn a little bit from everything, which is good.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I was going to add, the OWASP is more than documentation. They have a lot more resources that are super helpful. There are OWASP meetups and OWASP conferences, and there are toolings that the OWASP members or community leaders are creating and building to help you do encoding in Java. How do you do that right? Like if you write React or front end, anything Vue or Angular, you basically get this maybe for free because React does it for you. But if you need to do it for older projects, for a specific kind of way, how do you do it? So there are a lot of tools that this OWASP community and volunteer groups are building for us, for everyone else. So that's if you want to support the foundation as well, this is a whole foundation, and get involved. There's a lot of information if you just go to owasp.org. So you're probably asking now, what is OWASP Top 10, right?
Yeah, sure. So but wanted to go there because they always have that updated top 10 list, right? So True. Whenever someone goes to that site or search on web, they will find that top 10 list. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that why we should care about that top 10.
Definitely. So the OWASP top 10 is a popular term. People usually know it, and it became popular because what it is exactly for that reason. It's a document that is, or a list, if you'd like, to kind of like minimize kind of like what it really is, that provides you with the most popular web security risks that you should be aware of. So it's an awareness document. It means, that there are 10 sorts of web security weaknesses that you should be aware of, like code injection and XSS and broken authentication and misconfiguration and all those things. And the idea is that, if you focus on those 10 of them and 10 of them only, you could get breached by, whatever that was, the 11th and the 12th that you didn't know, right? So it's not like it wasn't supposed to be a comprehensive list that says, just do these 10 and you're fine. Exactly. It was more of like awareness, like, these are the top 10 that like we think that we've seen like enough breaches and weaponizing of CVEs and exploits around this. Focus on this, and this will put you at a really good spot in terms of like, doing well to begin with.
Yeah, at least something to get started, right? So
Exactly. Yeah. It helps you focus on
yeah,
one, if you're not really sure like what to start with first.
yeah. Also, it's really kind of funny, I would say, that how easy it is to get the data from the user's computer by doing the XSS attack. So if one application is not handling that scenario very well, and someone probably keeping, let's say, keeping the uh, tokens or anything in local storage or even cookies. Local storage is even easier. Someone can just read the data with JavaScript, and even there is tokens in the cookies with HTTP only. Then
Yep.
someone can just use their server and use, let's say, one image tag or something, and send that to their server and read that cookies in their server side and can easily get the token. I mean, this is so easy to actually steal someone's data or even someone's cookies or tokens if we go more, because there are chances that in the cookies there are tokens. Yeah.
I mean, the cookie itself is basically your token. So once you've got it, you basically can impersonate to that user's session, right?
That's how it's gone, right? So what you would say at least about this easy stuff, because technically this is not something that really hard to implement, right?
True. I mean, specifically cookie configuration, it's I mean, it really depends. Like I would say, like, let's not underestimate the work. It depends on like if you're having bringing up this whole kind of like SaaS solution that you're building, and there are like multiple subdomains involved and whatever. But so it could get a little bit more complicated than straightforward, which is the 80-20 rule. But yeah, generally speaking, like you're right, like cookie configuration, it's part of security misconfiguration in this OWASP top 10 that we don't get right. For example, the HTTP only or other kind of like parameters that it impacts, and whether we are toggling them on or off. And if we're using maybe, for example, we might use I would say like a dependency, right? An open source library, an NPM package that helps us do cookie management. And maybe the default behavior of that is actually, defaulting to insecure configuration, which is bad. But like, if we are not aware of it, if this was not written in the documentation, like we don't know to do it. And so that's kind of like, bad. But what I would suggest, so like, you've kind of like raised a problem, and if we want to like help developers, give them some advice here, is like, have this awareness where, I always say, user input, be very, cautious of this. And this can happen in many ways. It's not just the form input, especially not in today's kind of like cloud native environments where we build applications that are very event based. So if I'm uploading a picture to my avatar to Twitter, it doesn't go into like an app that saves it on like the temporary file system or something. At least I hope not. It probably goes to some bucket, and then there's some listener on that bucket. There's a Lambda function that gets triggered, and that triggers a worker node or something that listens to a queue, gets a message, the whole thing, right? This is so kind of like understand that we're building applications that are inherently more complicated. So the error rate is pretty high because we're not always in sync. We may not understand the whole flow. And so kind of like user input is super important. But if you think about it, back to our cookie configuration example, just the awareness of understanding that cookie management, which is basically session management, is a super sensitive part of of authorization, authentication, all of those parts. So if you understand that, you probably understand that you need to read some best practices, know how to do this correctly, and so probably some reading is involved for you. And hopefully, like you're following the right practices as well.
Yeah, true. Also, about one new cookie configuration which is released, which is same site. So same site cookie is also something came to the world to actually help to mitigate the CSRF protection, right? Yeah. So do you wanna add something there? Because this is a really cool thing. Like,
I'm actually interested to see if how well does this get adopted, because like I'm not sure it's a well-known, like you're saying, like this is a new one, and I'm not sure it's like well-known and well adopted yet practice. The idea indeed was to, I don't know if the idea, but the hope is to basically help mitigate CSRF issues, which are, we can explain what CSRF to the audience, like,
Yeah, sure,
get
sure. I
alignment
think,
here.
yeah.
So CSRF is basically a cross-site forgery request, and that means that like the simplest example that usually we give in trainings is, imagine that someone is putting on a website that they own, like I'm the attacker, right? And I'm putting a website, I'm building a website, and I'm putting there an image that its source attribute is not really an image. It's actually a GET request to slash admin slash eBay admin.com/delete all accounts, whatever. And if you implemented that, Shajara, in your endpoint, which has this GET that delete records, so just by the fact that you've basically visited my site, I'm now able to basically send a request to your site that you're logged in, and run this query. And this happens because your request to eBay admin.com or something like that is actually sent with the cookies that you have already, and maybe you're logged in, and this is basically the basic CSRF kind of like world. And of course, you need a lot of things to kind of to come in together for this to work, but it's a common misconfiguration or vector of attack. So to basically combat that, there are different ways. The old ways of doing that were, I remember this from like the super old days, that's like a decade or so ago. But like even further out, we were doing tokens. So you have server-side tokens that are added to like forms and things like that.
Exactly.
And only when they exist in the form HTML that gets sent, and the server that generated it like compares if that was the expected, and they verify it and so on. And do you remember what was the next one? The next evolution is like the double submit cookie, which is like a cookie for CSRF and a cookie for the other thing. And there's always, it's a different kind of like way, but it's been, I think, the most, I think double submit cookies are, because of SPAs and the ways that newer like front-end frameworks work, double submit cookies have been probably the most favored kind of like way to do this CSRF. And like this is where same site cookie comes in, because do you want to tell about it?
Yes, I can add few one more line, like as same site cookie has like three different categories. One is strict, lax, and none. So the cool thing of strict is, as Liran just said, the example that someone is on, let's say, example1.com, or someone is on the example2.com. So if we do same site strict, actually nothing can be done from the example2.com, because that cookie will be only available in the same site, right? So there is a very good video from, I think, Google. They show some example from the YouTube iframe, because YouTube actually gives iframe if I add, let's say, in my blog site. So if I'm logged in on YouTube or Google, and I open the application tab and cookies section in the Chrome browser, then I can see which kind of cookies are actually available from the YouTube to my, let's say, my blog is myblog.com. So it will also show like same site column there. So we can also see that explicitly which are same site or which is not. Then if we do the strict, then in that myblog.com, we cannot actually access or see those cookies, and those will be, I think, in yellow color or something, just to show that this is not accessible here, which is very cool video. I would also probably request the people who are watching or who will watch later on YouTube also watch that video. That is also actually cool to see. And by default, same site is lax. So if no one does anything, but same site will be lax. And you can also read on online. There are a lot of documents, good documents or blogs by big companies about the same site.
The strict one is, people don't always implement it to strict just because it may impact user behavior and the expectation. And it brings up like a philosophical perspective of security and user experience. It's not always aligned, and that balance is really hard to get. So for example, if you implement that strict tag for cookies, for same site cookies, it basically means that if you like try to forward the user to like an authentic site tries like send them a link to the logged in state, that will fail because it's coming from a different site. That's not it. So it's kind of like breaking the experience that we're really used to. And I've heard, like, I haven't experimented too much with same site and like seen that too much in production, but I've heard that this has some issues with subdomains, which is worth
Yeah.
exploring if you're looking at same site configurations. But yeah, overall, I mean, the web is evolving, right? We have this same site cookies and more of these features that enable us to basically build a safer and more secure web.
Yeah, of course, and all of the stuff doesn't work for all the companies or all the teams. It
True.
always depends on the scenario, product, or everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Never a silver bullet.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, from those, like, if we talk about those stuff which are available in OWASP top 10, or all the common stuff, what we are talking about, the SQL injection or this XSS CSRF or some others. There are others, like I can give one two more example, like Open Redirect. If you're using OAuth 2 based authentication, then Open Redirect can be a big thing to check, or something uh, like there's some like path vulnerability, like you can have like microservices, and your path is actually in the middle, or in your API gateway you have some regex which is actually breaking your path pattern, which is also very common. And I think there are a lot of blogs also on that. So these are like very common thing people can
True.
do. And
Yeah.
from those point of view, we also don't forget about our application. When we build, we are using tens or hundreds of third party
Libraries.
libraries. So then I will
And
go
without
to,
them, there's like
yeah.
1.6 million of them. Why not use one or two? Just one or two.
Yeah. So now I want to go there, because I know you personally, or also Snyk as a company, do a lot of things with that, right?
Yeah. I love that you bring it up, not even from the security perspective, just
Yeah.
like about the fact that we kind of need to be a little bit more, I'll say, aware of like the dependency that we use. So I do want to pitch in something that we're building, but it's like totally free, and like we're building this with a value for users, and that is it's called the advisor, the Snyk advisor. So if you Google this and Google a package next to it, whatever that would be,
Yeah.
what you'll see is that you land on a page that gives you a lot of information in terms of the package health. So is this package maintained? Like when I choose a package that I want to use from an NPM, repository or something, I usually go to NPM to watch the downloads and watch the versions, and go back to GitHub and watch, what are the stars and what is the last commit, when was this last released? And I go back to Snyk to find like if Snyk has vulnerabilities for it. So like there's a lot of important information that they do due diligence to use a library. That's what we've done. Like we understand that now developers are doing this, so we've basically built this Snyk advisor website. So if you land on it, you look for a package, it gives you all of this kind of like quantified information. These different aspects, like is there a thriving community around it? What is it? Is it popular? Is it maintainable? How well it's maintained, not if it's maintainable. If it has security issues, which by the way, I think what we're doing there is super nice, because imagine you're using Axios. It's an HTTP kind of like library that's for pretty popularly used on the front end. So if people are using Axios and they're like on a specific version that has vulnerabilities, and maybe they can't upgrade, maybe what should they move to, which version? Maybe they're like 1 year back off. So we kind of like give you this view where it's like a version matrix, so you can see for each version. For example, for each version, you could see how many direct vulnerabilities it has, how many indirect vulnerabilities it has, and whether it has license issues. And per each version with a timeline, it's super helpful to now say, hey, maybe I need to like roll back a few versions or roll forward a few versions to be on the safe side that has no vulnerabilities of any sorts. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I have also seen in your GitHub that you also personally like run few open source stuff, right?
So my own open source project,
yeah, you have your own project, right? So you have some. I also saw you have some CLI or something, which also does like some Snyk checks for the packages, right? So maybe please say something about your own stuff, or some list like people can, or like we can use to in our day-to-day life.
Awesome. Yeah. So
And I will also show that in the video. So later on the YouTube, someone can also see it from the YouTube. Yeah.
cool, cool. Yeah, there's. I will first of all say I'll start with they're maintaining an awesome GitHub repository, which doesn't mean it's awesome. It's it's just the convention of awesome lists. That
Yeah.
is pretty cool. What it has is kind of like this list of it curates a list of anything around Node.js security. So like the recent incidents that we had, like CodeCov and Event Stream, and all of those security incidents that were happening, and maybe you want to catch up on them. I'm like curating all of them with all the links you can go, read afterwards, the postmortems and things like that. It curates a list of tooling that you can use, like sanitizers and vulnerability checks and whatever you need. And so it's part of those. And then like specific project that you were chatting about is something I've built prior to actually joining Snyk. It actually existed. It's like from 3 or 4 years ago. And what we noticed, what I noticed back then is this, even back then, right? This rise of like supply chain security issues, a lot of malicious packages, a lot of hijacked packages. Like maybe a package, is not malicious, like I don't know, event stream, but it was hijacked, and now it kind of like brings in a dependency that is malicious, and that's like part of what you install. So I've built this CLI tool called NPQ, and the whole point with that is what it does is instead of doing npm install, which after you install the package, you know how many vulnerabilities maybe you have, which is kind of like it's after the fact, and maybe you want to know actually in advance if something is actually malicious. Like maybe it has a post install script. So once you install it, it reads all of your environment variables with the API keys that you have and sends them off to a new version, to a new server, the attacker controls. So you want to know about it before you install it and actually, reveal all of the sensitive information. So
Exactly. Yeah.
NPQ does that. When you install NPQ, you basically can do, it can override your bash kind of like alias, and then every npm install will go through NPQ, or you can just do NPQ install something. And when you do that, it now runs a few checks before installing the package. It checks if this package is like super new, which is kind of like suspicious. It checks if it has only like a small number of downloads, which is also a little bit suspicious. It checks with the Snyk database, like how many vulnerabilities it has and if it's like known to be malicious or anything else. So it actually runs like a few checklists and says, this looks good, or this fails a few of those checks. Do you really want to install it? So I recommend, if not using it, I recommend looking at it. So like you will know as a developer what to be aware of when you install a package, and what is the attack surface that is involved. Of course, it's not comprehensive, but it's a good starting point to like understand what's going on when you install packages.
Yeah, exactly. And I also shared all the links here in the video in last 30 seconds, 1 minute. And also, I mean, when we just do normal npm I, right, without any extra tool, npm I also gives some hints or notification at the end of the installation. So something like high 2 or 1, medium 5 or something, which is coming, I think, recently by default also. So
True.
with npm, right? So seems like maybe those also is not taken very actively or seriously, because when someone sees something in the terminal that there is 2 or 1 or something, then maybe we should also take that very seriously. Let's say there are a lot of tools built by Snyk, some other companies, or individual like Liran, let's say, have some other stuff, but even some default technologies also give some like hints and everything, right? So what do you think about that? Because maybe we should also read more about those things or talk about more to the team, like why this is coming.
True. I like that you bring this up, because I think this is, my opinion. I think what is the best thing that I think came out of NPM in the security space is probably that. I love and praise the NPM team for building the security advisories, that the security information that you get after you install a package as a default. Like that team, the NPM team, in that sense, they have basically, how to say that? Like they have created the awareness that was needed in the community. They have basically said, when you install something, you get security on by default, because we'll tell you if it has vulnerabilities or not. And I love that, that this is what they've done, and like they're helping raise this awareness. And and using npm and npm audit is a great thing if you need to like work on some projects and get those vulnerabilities and know about them and mitigate them. So I love that we're doing that. Like I'd love to see the same for the Python community when you do pip install. I'd love to see the same for Ruby gems when you do the gem installer, because we need that. We need this kind of hopefully, of course, about these things in advance, and you can find these issues. And even if you found an issue, like that you've installed an npm library and it's now free, like you don't have any vulnerabilities, doesn't mean that it stays that way in a week or two, because maybe there will be a new vulnerability discovered. So you always need to monitor and keep an eye out on it. But this whole thing of exposing this security information when you're using libraries and open source libraries, this is super smart. I love the npm team for doing that. That's amazing.
Yeah, true. And also we are talking probably a bit more about JavaScript ecosystem, but this can happen for everything.
Everything.
So if you work with .NET, Java, or whatever technology we talk, right? So please also use the necessary tools in your technology stack, and watch those for sure.
Well, Snyk is free. You can use it for all of those ecosystems, which it does support.
Yeah. Also, Snyk has the support for everything for sure. So, I mean, I personally use Snyk a lot. Even I think a lot of companies nowadays use Snyk, which is cool actually.
Yeah, I mean, check it out. We should do a stream of you using using Snyk and finding security issues, and we can work on fixing them together. See what you're finding.
Yeah, I can try to engage for sure. Yeah, I would also love to learn a bit more on that sector for sure.
Let's learn that for the next stream.
I didn't want to actually mention that, but I think I would mention that because in my all the live talks on YouTube, I had more views in the live. So right now we have, let's say, 1 and 2 going on, and max it was like 5. But I remember for all the other talks, we always had like concurrent 5 to 10. Even I think 12 or 15 was also there in some talks. I mean, that also proves that people are more curious about the code, or let's say learning framework.
I love it. This is amazing. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, that actually proves, because I have been doing, I think, 7-8 talks. I mean, I'm not also that experienced in this live thing. Like I don't have 10 years of experience here, but here I see the difference, because we were talking about that. We don't talk a lot in the team, in the community. If you go to meetup, there is very less security topics. Even in the live,
I would say that security is these days, because of like the growth of open source and usage of it, it's even more like connected day to day to what developers do. Like supply chain security, it sounds like, wow, what is going on? What is supply chain? It's like far away from me. No, it's not. Like you're using CodeCov, which is a great tool for code coverage. I use it myself. But they had a supply chain security incident. It means that someone, was able to get the API, the environment variables token, and everything you have there from who knows how many customers that have installed it. This is impacting me and you and everyone using CodeCov. We had, Visual Studio Code extensions that are vulnerable. They have vulnerabilities inside them that allows an attacker to basically, if I develop on Visual Studio Code right now, and I have one of the extensions that I'm using, like a Markdown parser or something like that, just to view it, I'm vulnerable. Someone could actually weaponize and exploit and, attack me and basically, run commands on my laptop or something. So this is actually, super important. It's like super related to my day-to-day activity as a developer, and I love seeing this awareness, because people, starting to understand that these security incidents, security issues are seriously, could be impacting them, and no wonder why people, are more interested in security. This is great for us.
That's why I was also trying to do this topic. Somehow we managed time and to do it. It is really cool, because maybe today probably total 20 people will watch, not concurrently but randomly, but I hope at least 300 people will watch in next 2-3 months, and these 300 people can at least talk 5 minutes about that in their company, in their with their
Exactly.
friends or with their
Yes.
teams, right? So
Yes.
that will be a really, yeah, nice thing. And what we should do actually, if let's say if I want to learn more, what I should do, I mean.
Definitely. So if you're a developer listening to this, you want to continue your journey listening and starting off with security for your project for your company. I'll suggest several things. First of all, OWASP in general is a great resource. You could get lost from the fact that it is so huge and big. So you
Yeah.
could find again the OWASP chapters working in your in Berlin and wherever you're working at. Join those meetups. They happen these days virtually, so it's easy to join. You could do that. You could also read some best practices that they have. I'm also writing, best practices for like
Mhm.
Node.js and JavaScript security on like the Snyk blog. So if you're going there and you're building Node.js containers or you're doing some code stuff, SQL injections and how to avoid them, how to use, those proper stuff. Me or Brian on my team, like, writing about this, those best practices across Java and Node.js and JavaScript. And this is, a great resource to also learn about. The awesome repository that you've added before that we talked about, the awesome Node.js security, is a good one that kind of like gives you tools and incidents, and like it's a bit from everything. So it's a nice way to like know the ecosystem. There's the there's a DevSecOps. That's a community slash conference slash Slack kind of
Mhm.
user guides
Yeah.
where developers can spend time and ask questions and learn and do security. So if you're going to just search up for DevSecOn, you'll find a
Yeah.
conference. There's actually one coming up in June 23 and 24. You could join. Like, of course, it's free and everything. So there's that. There's the OWASP Slack. There's the Node.js, the OpenJS Foundation Slack, which you can join and have a security channel. There's like so many resources to get started. I think we can do maybe we can do a 10 resources to learn about
Yeah.
where to
And
start with
yeah.
security.
Yeah, sure. And I will probably summarize those also. I will add it to the description of this video. So even later, anyone can get that from the bottom of this video. I also shared one blog post. This is also something you
Oh, I
wrote
love it.
in the Snyk blog, right?
Thank you for
So
sharing.
yeah,
It's
this is also something. Yeah, I read it before. Yeah. Also, this is the DevSecCon what Liran was talking about, right?
yeah, we have an upcoming conference coming up, 24 hours. You should really join that. It's gonna be fun.
Okay, I will surely register there. Yeah, thanks for saying. I hope some more people will join from this video. This is something really cool. Then I mean, if someone wants to learn that, they can do. I mean, that the main thing here missing, I think, the interest or that energy to actually really dig into that and really say that okay, I will invest some proper time and learn something from there, right?
True. Yes. Like there's a lot of this is basically developer security conference and all of these resources related to that as well. That's kind of like what you should look for starting off. This is all the intro stuff that you probably want and some of the advanced and the intermediate stuff that you could dive into as well.
Yeah, and also I'm sharing your Twitter link. Also, please follow him because Liran also shares a lot of security related stuff. So I think from there we can also get some information always because he is more on the security side than us. Always nice to get something from him.
Yeah, please shoot out any questions you have, and like you could use the YouTube stream that now Shajada has to leave comments. I'll review those later and answer if you leave anything there. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid to ask. Don't be shy. This is all of us learning all the time. So this is a safe place to ask questions.
There is no boundary, right? Even the topmost expert in security or any side of the technology can learn even after 30 years of experience. So there is no shame for learning or asking. Yeah.
Definitely.
So I think we'll close it with a bit of sad heart, I would say, because as I was saying, we always had 10 to 12 concurrent viewers before, but right now we have 3. But I still thank to all of them who joined randomly and left, because at least you guys were there. So thanks for that. And if you, as Liran said, if you have anything to add, please write in the comment below. And I would also love to answer. If I cannot answer, I would also refer and forward to Liran so that I can get the information and reply to you. And
Definitely.
of course, in future, I would love to also add more and more security related topics in the channel. Personally, I would also post videos, like small videos there, also some more live talks in future.
Sounds
And
good.
yeah, Liam, thanks for joining. It is really pleasure to actually have you, and thanks for
Shagila,
time.
thank you for inviting me and hosting me. This is thanks for moderating this session and for caring for security so deeply, so that we could all take part of it and learn. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Then see you later, online or offline, right?
Mine too, as well. Yeah, see you around.
Yeah, we are hoping when Corona goes away, maybe we will meet someday in any meetups or conferences.
Hopefully.
Yeah, then bye for now.
Bye bye.